There's no way they should have let me drive away with that truck. We were moving from Massachusetts up to Vermont. This is years ago, and I was a much younger man, much less experienced, and I went to the U-Haul place to pick up the big box truck that we were going to load up and move, and I was ill-equipped to drive such a big truck, especially on the highway and there in Boston area. We loaded it up and we made our way up here, and I'll tell you, it was harrowing. I was so tense the whole time, and what I found was that I would get into a lane, and once I was in that lane, I was so reluctant to get out of that lane for anything. I mean, for one thing, I felt like I was safe in that lane. If I just stayed in it, it was easy. It was easier to stay in my lane than it was to switch lanes. And I was afraid of moving because there were huge blind spots and I wasn't very confident about the vehicle itself. So I had inertia keeping me in the lane that I was in, and I had inhibitions keeping me from moving to another lane. And it made the ride a lot longer than it needed to be and a lot less pleasant than it could have been. But by God's grace, we made it to Vermont, and the rest is history. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because if you, like me, were in the habit of attending church in person at least once a month before the pandemic came along and it forced us into a different lane altogether. And at first we were resistant to going into that lane, but now that we're in that lane, the same principles take over: inertia and inhibition. And it's much easier to stay in that lane than it is to change out of it. And I'm not bringing any of this up to guilt you or to make you feel bad about anything. I'm not here to try to overcome your inertia or your inhibitions, heaven forbid, because your inhibitions might have a lot of validity. I'm not going to tell you to change lanes when there could be a car in your blind spot. But I do know this: I don't want any of us to be in the lane that we're in because of our inhibitions and our inertia. I want us to be in the lane that God wants us to be in because it is the best suited to accomplishing the mission of making more and better disciples for Jesus, starting with me. I need to be a better disciple. And if that means being in personal attendance, that's the lane I want to get into as soon as I feel like I safely can manage it. But I have some good news for you too. It's not like that's the only way to accomplish the mission. By God's grace, we can now do online church in a way that advances the mission of making more and better disciples for Jesus. In fact, it's much easier to invite somebody to join you at Altar Live and to sit with you in your row there and to have meaningful interactions with them than it is to invite somebody to a physical space. And so whether you're doing this or doing that, I just pray that you're doing it to the glory of God and that it's not inhibition or inertia that's making the decisions for you. I'm really excited that starting this Sunday, May 23rd, Pentecost Sunday, we're going to have again the opportunity to worship in person in this beautiful space behind me here at the Vermont Marble Museum. And if you're interested in coming and joining us, please do so. There's a place on the website where you can register to attend. We are still asking people to register at this point, not because we're going to run out of seats, I don't think, but so that we can plan accordingly. It would be really helpful to us and for contact tracing purposes. So looking forward to worshiping with you online or in person, and all of us overcoming together our inhibitions and our inertia as we bravely, courageously, forthrightly, determinedly pursue the mission that God has given us of making more and better disciples for Jesus. God bless you.